Very well done.
Okay, I'm on a party.
That's right. One day at a time.
Vocês têm tempo de leitura, quantas horas?
I'm pretty sure it is.
A resposta tem 4 horas e meia.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see full house today. Hello. Okay, so let's start our reflections today with our harmonization text from the Living Spring. It's the text 58, entitled Disciples. And anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Jesus, Luke, chapter 14, verse 27. The most varied Christian circles are replete with students who enthusiastically proclaim themselves to be disciples of Jesus, as if true devotion to the Master were a matter of mere words. In reality, however, the gospel leaves no room for doubt about the matter. The life of each conscious person entails a set of duties towards him or herself, a family of souls that gather around his or her sentiments, and towards all humankind. It's not so easy to fulfill all such duties in full accordance with evangelical guidelines. It is essential that we eliminate the rough edges of our temperament, ensuring our spiritual balance, that we contribute effectively on behalf of all those who share our pathway, giving to each one what belongs to him or her, and that we serve our community. Unless we rectify ourselves, we cannot correct our pathway. Twisted trees do not project perfect images. If you are searching for sublimation in Christ, then we should heed the divine lessons. In order to be his disciples, we must firmly set out to take up the cross of our testimony, or having assimilated the good, following in his footsteps. There are learners that to take up their crosses of redemptive trials, but they do not follow the Lord. Rather, they give in to rebelliousness by hardening their hearts and running away. There are others who follow the Master with well-made words and phrases, but they do not take up their cross, leaving it at the door of their neighbors or fellow believers. Duty and renewal, work and self-improvement, action and progress, responsibility and spiritual growth, acceptance of the imperatives of the good, and obedience to the standards of the Lord. Only after such achievements will we experience the true communion with the Divine Master. So let's pray. So let's close our eyes, elevate our minds and thoughts and hearts toward Jesus, to our guardian angels. Let's open our hearts to reflect on the teachings that we are going to share today. Let's thank Lord for this opportunity to learn, to have our hearts be touched by the gospel teachings, by the teachings that we can learn from Peter, from Jesus, from the apostles, that were ordinary men like we are. Let's open our hearts to understand the lesson. And let's ask Lord to strengthen our will so we can practice, we can say, and we can live as a real disciple of Christ, as Christians, deep in our hearts. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, and help us to reflect upon your teachings. Be with us, Master Jesus, now and ever. So be it. Okay. So, again, thank you everyone for joining us. For those that have seen these reflections on another day, I have been talking about this passage from this book, The Good News, in Portuguese, Boa Nova. This is written by the Spirit Humberto de Campos, by Chico Xavier, and tell us some encounters, meetings that Jesus had with the disciples after their meetings with the people, with the crowd. So they got together at night, and then the disciples used to bring some questions, some doubts that they have with their personal lives, or with some teachings that Jesus had gave to the crowd. And then Jesus explained a little bit better what he had explained. So it's highly recommend for those that have this curiosity to understand a little bit better how was the relationship between Jesus and the disciples. It's a great book, and I highly recommend you to read. I have been bringing one chapter at each meeting to reflect upon. This one has been, how can I say that? It's been very much touched our hearts, that we bring so much reflect upon it, that we have been studying this chapter for 3 encounters. This is the 3rd part. So hopefully we can finish today, but
Let's see.
if it's not, that's fine. Most important is we leave to our homes, in our hearts, some knowledge that we didn't have before. Okay, so the passage from the Bible, or from the Gospel that this Peter's denial is part of, is from Luke. We can see this better explained in complete in the book of Luke 22:34 is the verse, and it's the phrase that Jesus told Peter. I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows today, you will deny 3 times that you know me. So let's try to understand a little bit better what happened with Peter that time, what his feelings was, because this is all described here by Humberto de Campos, that had access to the gospel in the spiritual realm. So he is bringing to us how all this process inside of each disciple in that very important moment that Jesus was passing through along with the disciples. Okay? And remember, we are all disciples of Christ. We are all apprentices. Disciples means apprentices. Apostles means the ones that have the missionary duty to bring some knowledge, some new message to others. So we are still in this level of disciples. We are all disciples. So, and this is also based on this book that we have in the library, Energy of the Chakras, Chakras Energy. It's really interesting teachings here. Talks about health and self-transformation. All right, so without further ado, let's try to move on to the review. Like, what did we learn from this chapter so far? So what we have been learning since August about this text. So we're going to go through the paragraphs as we are used to do. But for each paragraph that we're going to read, we are going to bring one or two takeout. Highlights, yes, about what we have learned. Okay, so we don't spend too much time, so we have time to finish today, if we can. All right, so I will ask you guys help to read this text. So that's the reason that I shared some copies with you. So please help me reading the text. Who would like to read the first paragraph?
Do you have more?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, we
I
ran
share.
out. So I would like to ask you guys to share.
Okay.
You can read? Please, thank you.
Peter's denial. The Messiah's act of washing his disciples' feet was met with some incomprehension on the part of Simon Peter. The old fisherman was not in agreement with such an act of extreme submission. And when his turn came, he resolutely asserted, "No, master, you shall never wash my feet. My companions are being ungrateful and insensitive, letting you do this as if you were a common slave." Having said this, he gave the group a look of reproach and contempt. Jesus responded, "Simon, do not strive to be better than your fellow apostles in any of life's circumstances. In truth, I assure you that without my help, you will not participate with my Spirit in the supreme joys of redemption." Peter settled down somewhat, hushing the voice of his almost childlike benevolence.
Thank you, Miss. All right, so what we have learned from this text in August, back in August, just a tip. We have spent 1 hour just in this paragraph. Lots to think about, but we're going to just bring some highlights, as Renata said. So first, we can see here when Peter says or feels that he cannot understand that extreme act of submission that Jesus was showing when he was there washing the disciples' feet. He could understand that because that was a very common act that slaves used to do. So for him, he was the master. Peter looked at Jesus as the master. How a master could be doing what slaves used to do, right? So he could understand that concept. But why? Because his prejudice movement, he used to look at the slaves as inferior people, so they could not be better or be the same as they were. He was looking at that act with pride. So how Jesus as a superior, like a master, could be acting like an inferior person. And with arrogance towards his fellow companions, when he looks at them and say, my companions are being ungrateful and insensitive. Like he was being judgmental. He was judging his fellow friends, and he was being judgmental towards Jesus as well. Looking at Jesus as, what you're doing. Questioning what Jesus was doing. Not trying to learn from his acts. Not trying to understand what's the message that he wants to convey, but most judging Jesus. So Jesus here was giving an example of how to be a servant leader. Today we talk a lot about this in our business, right? To be the servant leader, like the one that knows better, teaching the others, welcome, like embrace the other ones that don't know as much. But this was provided by Jesus. Like this example was brought by Jesus like 20,000 years ago. And then through this act of extreme humbleness, he was showing the power of humbleness to teaching them that the most important virtue for one to feel or to start practicing is the humbleness. So also we can see that the Spirit's talking about pride and selfishness on the chapter 12 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, the one in the middle there. They say that the cause of all imperfections, it's originated by pride and selfishness. So that's the root of all our imperfections. If we think about one imperfection that we already are able to recognize in ourselves, just think about and go back. Why do I feel this, I feel so irritated with somebody? So think about that irritation comes from, because she or he is doing this and that, but then I don't accept what they are doing because that just go back. You'll see that the root of your feeling is always coming from pride or selfishness. So this is basically the message here in this first paragraph. Let's move on to the next one. Who would like to read the next one, please? Perfect, thank you.
When the lesson was over, having returned to his place at the table, the master appeared lost in deep thought. But then, implying that his spiritual vision was disclosing upcoming events, he stated, "The hour of my final testimony is at hand. I have seen in advance that all of you will scatter at that supreme moment. That is only natural, however, for you are not yet ready to do anything except to learn. But before I leave, I want to give you a new commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you may be known as my disciples, not for your superiority in the word, nor for your demonstration of spiritual powers, nor for the clothes you wear in this life, but for revealing the love with which I have loved you, for the humility that should adorn your souls, and for nourishing a good disposition in self-sacrifice."
Thank you so much. Okay, so what we have learned from this paragraph last time, we learned about the spiritual omniscience capacity of Jesus. He was able to see in advance what would happen. So he was seeing that the disciples would flee in that supreme moment of his life. They would not be with him. They would be scared. They would be afraid. And they would not be there for him. He could see that. When they say, my spiritual vision was disclosing upcoming events. I have seen in advance that you all will scatter at the supreme moment. And most important, he says, that is only natural. Only natural. He could understand what they would do because it's natural. For you are not yet ready to do anything except to learn. So they were there to learn. He understood that the disciples at that moment, they were learning. They were not supposed to do anything. He was not expecting them to do anything. They understood in that moment, the disciples could not do anything except learn. And another important highlight here is a new commandment. Like the commandments that Jesus is talking about, he's talking about the 10 commandments that Moses brought to us. Right? So he says, I'm going to give you a new commandment, which is love one another as I have loved you. So he's putting himself as a model. Look at me. See how I love you. See how I understand you. See how I accept you. The same way you do with others. So he's putting himself as the model. And as described in the question 625 from the Spirit's book, who is the model and guide for the humankind? Jesus. He still is. He's still, and he will ever be our master, our guide, our model to follow. So here he's saying, I am the model that you should follow, and he's giving them 3 tips how to know by his disciples. Love, because he says you're not going to be known as my disciples because you are superior of others, like Peter was showing at the beginning. You're not going to be known as my disciples if you demonstrate spiritual powers, because the disciples after Jesus passed away, they were doing miracles that we can now understand better. If you go to Genesis, Kardec explained very well how the miracles happened. Actually, were not miracles, were more like Jesus used the divine laws or the universe fluid to provide help to everyone. So he was not doing anything magical. He was acting according with the divine laws. And then he says, you are known to be my disciples for revealing the love which I loved you. First of all, love. So we are here for learn. We are here to learn what? To love. So first thing that we are supposed to learn here in our existence, how to love. Love the others like you love yourself, like Jesus loved us. So start with I love myself, so I will love my neighbors the way that Jesus loved me. And then he says, humility is the second virtue. Love, humility. Like he says, come to me, all that you are weary and burdened, and I will give you the rest. Learn from me. I'm humble and meek from the heart. So he puts himself as a model, again, for us to learn from. And here he says again, nourishing a good disposition in self-sacrifice. What he's talking here about self-sacrificing.
It's not supposed to be painful. It's not supposed to be a burden. It's supposed to be something that you do because of that love you've developed.
Exactly. And this is light. The love makes everything light, and you feel contentment, you feel peace within yourselves, in your hearts. Let's move on for the third one. Who would like to read, please? Anyone?
Sim,
Sim, please. Thank you.
seeing that once more Jesus was making farewell recommendations, Peter gave expanse to his restless temperament. Where in fact are you going, Lord? The master replied. You are not yet ready to follow me. The testimony of always sacrifice, an extremely selfless. Someone help me? Okay. Only later you will come into possession of such essential fortitude. However, desirous,
That's right.
God, of proving to his companions the worth of his dedication, Simon added emphatically, meaning to gain the Messiah's trust in him. I cannot follow you. Do you doubt my courage, Master? So I'm not a man? For you I will give my very life. Jesus smiled and answered, Peter, your restlessness makes you worth of new lessons. Experience will teach you better conclusions, for in truth, I tell you that this very night the rooster will not crow before you have denied me 3 times. So, do you consider me to be such a bad and hardened spirit? The fisherman asked. No, Peter, I do not consider you to be ungrateful or indifferent to my teachings. Even so, today you will learn that human beings are more fragile than they are perverse.
Thank you so much. So, let's think about, this is a very important paragraph for us to think about, to reflect upon. So we can see here that Peter was still showing. Right. I can picture Peter putting his hands in his. I think that you're going without me. So, do you think that I'm not a man? Right? So he was very, like he has feelings, like hurt feelings, that what Jesus was saying. His heart was touched, but not in a sense that could make him more sensible about what Jesus was saying, but makes him feel humiliated. What you are saying, I'm not able to follow. I will follow you everywhere. I will give my life for you. But he could understand the meaning, like the lesson that Jesus was giving to him and to all of them. Peter was just being the one, when we are in a very quiet classroom and then the teacher explained the lesson and then everybody was like quiet, but nobody understands. But then somebody, but what do you mean with it? And everybody was, yeah. Like nobody, everybody there. They couldn't understand what Jesus was saying, but Peter was the one that, what you were saying, like, because Peter had this intimacy with Jesus. Remember that Jesus, he used to stay in Peter's house. They were very close. Peter, John were very close to Jesus. So they were with Jesus all the time. And Peter was older than Jesus in physical age. And he like adopted Jesus. Like, he was like a brother, a younger brother that he had to protect. He loved Jesus so much. It's not that Jesus was being mean to Jesus, or he was. No, he just wanted to understand, but he couldn't grasp what Jesus was saying. And then he kept insisting on, and then Jesus says the very famous phrase that we have been reflecting upon. I'll tell you that this very night the rooster will not crow before you have denied me 3 times. He was using his omniscience to tell Peter what he would do very, very soon. And Peter feels so hurted, like he feel hurt, he feel that, okay, this is not gonna happen. What are you saying? I'm not gonna deny you. But he was in denial since the first beginning. But and then he says, what, do you think that I'm a bad person? Do you think that I'm gonna do that? Like, he couldn't understand. And then Jesus says, no, I don't consider you to be ungrateful or indifferent to my teachings. I know you have a good intention. Everyone, every person in the world is good in a sense.
Everyone. Yeah, in essence, yes.
In essence, everyone is good. But
the immortal spirits, right? Like
we are immortal spirits. We are created in the image of God. God created all spirits.
No, don't apologize. Simple and unaware.
Are some spirits created good and others bad? God created all spirits simple and unaware, meaning lacking all knowledge. God has given them each a particular mission to enlighten them and help them gradually reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth and rise closer to Him. In that perfection, they will find eternal bliss without any troubles. Spirits acquire knowledge by experiencing the trials inflicted by God. While some accept these trials with resignation and arrive at their destiny more quickly, others are defiant and remain far from the perfection and happiness promised to them through no fault other than their own. We are all created simple and unaware. But it's up to us to reach the bliss, which is the happiness, the eternal happiness, or to be stationary, suffering.
No, I was going to say that the first time that I heard someone telling me was back in Toronto in a Spiritist center, and they told me, like, everyone has the goodness inside of them. And I asked the same question, like, everyone? And they said yes. I said, how come? Like, some people, they're just like psychopaths. They don't care like about anything. And they told me that actually, like, each one of us, we have like a divine spark inside of us. So it's up to us to turn it on or off. It's like the free will that we have.
Exactly.
So it kind of helped me to better understand why everyone like really has like this divine spark, but some people turn it on, some other just don't for now. But at the end of the day, I think everybody is gonna do it.
Yeah, and if we do, if we do like a parallel between like the persons that we consider very, very, very bad in the evolution, and Peter, for example, what Peter did. Peter was a Jesus' disciple. And when he said to Jesus, what, so you think I'm a bad person? He truly believed that he would never be able to deny Christ. He truly believed that. Yes. He was not lying.
No.
And even though he did it. So the same way, if you do like a parallel, this is like a bad thing, even though he was a good person. And he did it. And the guys that we consider that is very, very, very bad person, what they do is, how do I say that? I forgot in English and in Portuguese too.
Welcome to my world.
I forgot both words, but it's like
Chinese.
Oh my God.
Spanish.
Just try to explain what it is. Like, what's
No, it's like a similar, like, not similar, but I forgot.
Parallel situations. Parallel situations.
Yeah, it's like, I forgot. I will remember.
Yeah,
The word in
you
Portuguese and in
can
English, but-
tell. But here is the answer to. Jesus told Peter, today you will learn that human beings are more fragile than they are perverse.
And later down the story, we'll also see why
Yeah.
Peter denied Jesus 3 times. There
Yes.
was a reason for that.
That's what's
It wasn't because he was bad. It wasn't because he was a coward. He had a very good reason in his mind. Even though Jesus told them, "You're here to learn. I don't need you to do anything." Peter felt like he had to act. So his actions in his mind are 100% justified.
Perfect. Thank you, Renata. And also he says here, like he's trying to prove to his companions the worth of his dedication. He was focused on outside of him, trying to prove externally. And Jesus was inviting him to see his inner self. Look to inside of your heart. But he was not focused on him. He was focused on proving the others that he was the... But guys, I just would like to highlight this for you as well, emphasize this. We are looking at Peter as a model for us to learn, because this is his actions describes very much what we do today, like our own feelings, our own acts. And we are gonna, like Renata says, we are gonna see this very clearly later on. We understand him very clearly why he had act like that. So don't try to look at Peter with a judgmental feeling, but like try to understand and try to learn from him. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say like on that passage, and I think deep down he knew it. I love Peter, by the way, because it's my name. But he's naive, like his way to pass on those learnings by Christ. Like I really love him, and I think he was so full of guilt because of the first time that Jesus chose him and everything. And for those watching the Chosen, like they showed. He's always trying to prove himself, like all the time.
Yeah.
All the time he's trying to prove himself, to say, no, I am with you. I denied you at once. My brother was telling me, but no, I am with you now. And I think this conversation tells a lot about that. Like how he was trying at that time to prove himself even more. Like to say, no, I'm never going to do something like that. Like I know who you are now. And I think this answer from Jesus shows like, it's not because of that I chose you. Like I chose you because of your essence, but you're still gonna do something wrong. You're still gonna do some mistakes for the humankind perspective, from the humankind perspective. But that's not the reason why I chose you. That's not the reason why I see your beauty. For me, like that answer narrows down everything. Like Jesus is showing that it's way more than that.
For sure. Yeah. That's absolutely, yeah. And Jesus sees us as he sees Peter and all the apostles. He trusts in us. He trusts in our essence. He trusts that we will learn and we will get there. It's just a matter of time, gradually. Jesus is not in a rush.
We are.
He's not.
Jesus has more faith and hope in us than we
have
in ourselves.
Exactly.
We don't believe in us sometimes. We think we're not able to get there. So it's up to us.
Just want to make a comment about, so the first sentence, God created us all spirits simple and unaware. That doesn't mean that we have nothing. So the divine laws are in our conscience all the time, even from the creation time. So even though we are learning as we go, or making mistakes and taking a longer path or shorter path to that enlightenment, we always have the divine laws with us. So sometimes we try not to hear what our conscience is telling us. That's how we make all kinds of excuses to justify our actions and so. Maybe that divine spark that was told, like as an example, it could be seen as this, that we all have in ourselves. So that's why we kind of know, or a lot of times we know, like, I'm choosing this, but then something is telling us, what, like, some little voice we are trying to sometimes silence because we don't want to do the work, or we don't want to see our wrongdoings or whatever. So we just want to remind that the divine laws are always with us.
Thank you, and I'll take as a segue to the point that you brought. My opinion, okay, from everything that I have been learning, we are not able to turn off this part. Otherwise, we're going to be as potent as God.
That's a good point.
What we can do, it's like, you know, when you go to have a shower, but you take your umbrella with you? That's what we do sometimes. The energy is coming from God to that spark that is inside of us that never will fade away. Never. It's always there. But we don't get in contact with this sparkle. We run away from it. We have that liberty. We have that free will to not connect with ourselves in essence. We are more looking outside of us. We are looking at what is happening externally and not internally. So it's not that we turn off or turn on, it's just that we are not in contact with the divine laws in ourselves. We, like the parable of the two sons. The younger son goes away from the father's house. So same analogy, we can walk away from the father's house that is inside of us, if you want to. But what we're going to find outside is not the same. And this younger son will find out that later on, after suffering, after going through all sufferings, all kinds of sufferings, he realizes that only in the Father's house has abundance, has happiness. So only inside of us we are going to find happiness. The eternal bliss is inside of us. We just need to learn how to get inside of us, how to go through that pathway. And we need to learn how to read those divine laws that is in our conscience. Because it's in there, but sometimes we don't know how to read them.
And to the point that we said, like, everybody's good, like, I kind of have a list of some psychopaths. Maybe an exception. But I heard an explanation that was really interesting. It's like everybody has a sunlight, but then there's a lot of clouds outside.
Exactly.
So the sun is always there, but sometimes there's this big storm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the person doesn't have the spark, it's just that something is blocking. And as you are serving or walking in the right direction, it's almost like you are increasing your ability to love or removing the clouds away, so you can see what was inside of you and letting it shine. Because I look at some people like, that's not possible, like it's a psychopath, like they don't care. They're just like hurting a lot of people, but the sun is there. It's just that it's cloudy and dark.
Yeah.
It's interesting if you think about that, what you just said. The only thing that differs us from somebody that level is their choices. Once they turn their choices and they make their choices, change the way of view, they can even go much further than we are right now, and we can just seize it as that person and judge, but it's just the choices.
It's the choices.
Which are usually guided by our conscience.
Yes.
The moment you awaken your conscience, you're able to make better choices knowingly.
Exactly.
People use psychopaths as an example for this, but I don't think it fits really well because they don't choose to be psychopaths, or they are made, or they suffer some brain damage, or they have some problem to feel. It's not a consciential choice, you know, guys. It's different for instance, a criminal in the slums that choose to be himself and see so many bad things, and you know what, I'll be worse. But a psychopath is a sick person who doesn't have the ability to have the same feelings that us. They come with this challenge to overcome something, to learn some lessons from whatever, I don't know yet, but they don't have our ability. We have to be grateful for these feelings that we have, you know? So when you think about mean, a psychopath is not necessarily mean. They are lacking all the same resources we have.
But definitely if you think about God's justice, and you know that o acaso não existe,
Chance doesn't exist.
chances doesn't exist, so you know that there's a reason why we have spirits like that. Maybe they are very, very, very primitive spirits, and they are still evolving. So, but they have same chances as everyone else.
They have a conscience. They
Definitely.
know something.
Yes,
but what
as-
I'm saying
as
is
a
some have the
spirits,
brain damage. They don't
As a
have
spirits,
the
we are the same.
capability to feel like us. It's not that they are mean. It's that they don't feel.
Well,
A physical reason, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but we are spirits, right?
Let's
So-
reflect. But there are medications, there are things, there are other resources,
Yeah.
and I understand what you're saying. It's not always a matter of making a right choice or bad choice because
rational
they
choice.
don't feel full. They're not like full in their senses. But if they incarnate like that, there is a reason, and the reason is not to fulfill that path
Yeah.
of making bad choices. So maybe we don't know. I don't think we have the answers to that question, like why this and that or how that works. But as immortal spirits, they are not psychopaths, and they are not, or like a murderer or something. Like they can make choice, but who knows if whatever the excuse that people are making to act upon what they do. And I know it's hard because when we see someone doing wrong things, we feel immediately like, okay, that's a bad spirit or not, but who knows what we did in the past. But again, no one incarnated to kill anyone. No one incarnated to be a psychopath in the sense that fulfill that kind of path. And there are psychopaths or sociopaths or whatever names we're giving that they, or even pedophiles, that they have that urge, but they find a way to control. Is it easy? Probably not, but again, if they have, people have different challenges, or we have different challenges, we are here to learn with them and not to fulfill the bad things, the bad thoughts and bad instincts we're bringing, right? So I know it's a very
polemic, yeah.
polemic topic,
Of
and we
evolution.
won't be able to make
Yeah.
have all the
Not only
answers.
that, I think something else that we need to remember is nowadays we kind of re-signify some words. Just like, for example, my kids use, oh, I have PTSD, and I'm like, you don't
Yeah.
know what real PTSD is.
Yes.
Nowadays, people
need to
tend to
label
refer to
everything.
anybody whose behavior I don't agree with is a psychopath.
Yeah.
You know, like as a pathology, it's very
There's
well defined.
different, yeah.
So we
That's
sometimes
certain
refer
things.
to anybody whose behavior we disagree with like a psychopath. So we also need to think about the real meaning of the word psychopath, sociopath, PTSD, all of those things.
Yeah,
So
this is a
it's a
challenge.
broader
I think
thing.
this is a challenge for this spirit, and even though we think, okay, they do not have capability of choose here, they definitely chose before they came here.
The past.
Yeah, because no, and not only that, they this is part of their life. Oh my God, can I speak?
Learning process?
No.
Experience?
O processo de. Gente, eu tô esquecendo até em português. Não, de preparação da encarnação.
The
Preparation.
Yes, the preparation for the incarnation. So they are like before we incarnated. I mean, the incarnation process is a very complex process, and it's a planning. You need to plan how you do, and definitely these spirits, they probably are very primitive spirits, but it was a plan to incarnate it and to have a so big challenge. So, and to have like a physical damage, because their spirit was damaged already. So this brought like the damage on their body, but definitely the goal is not to kill anyone. Definitely the goal is not that.
Yes, for sure. Nobody reincarnates to do bad things. We all incarnate to do good things. So one thing that we need to keep in mind, this is a great question, by the way, Priscilla, and everyone that said it's good that all these reflections is coming and bring us more things to think about, but keep this in mind. If a person has a brain problem and this person cannot perform her life well because of the brain problems, who would be responsible for that situation?
Themselves.
No.
Not always.
I was born with a
Also
brain
want
problem.
to incarnate with that
I
problem.
have a brain problem. It's not my fault. Like I cannot be good because I have a brain problem. Who is the fault?
It's God.
No,
God.
just
God.
He made you.
God. If you are saying that the person cannot perform well because she has a brain problem, it's because God created her that way. If we see only the material part, so God has nothing to do with our brain problems. This is like Marcella said, like Anna said, like Renata said, everyone said. This is something that we created from our own behaviors. So we are, I forgot the name, I forgot the word in English, herdeiros. Nós somos herdeiros de nós mesmos. We are
heirs
heirs
of
of
ourselves. Yeah.
So, if this person is acting as a killer, it's because the spirit is acting as a killer. It's not the body. We cannot put the guilt in the instrument. The body is only our instrument to act here. We feel, we spirits, we need to think about us as I am the immortal spirit. Sonia is just a personality, temporarily, has time to start, time to finish. I will survive. I am immortal spirit. So I feel, I think, I decided as a spirit. So if I am killing somebody, it's not to do with my brain, nothing to do with my body, my physical body. It's myself that is acting like that. So the psychological, the mental health comes from the spirit, not the brain. The brain is just an instrument. If the brain has that shape, it's because we shaped it that way.
not all psychopaths are killers. There are lots of psychopaths in society that they're just don't feel. They are extremely rational. They learn what is right and wrong and act upon them, even if they don't feel like other people. It's more common actually.
But this is the beginning of the evolution of this spirit.
Exactly. That's why they are making those choices.
Yes.
They make a lot more effort to choose between right and wrong than a lot of us that maybe are a bit ahead on that sense. That doesn't mean we are better necessarily, but like it's easier. But they are making those efforts.
We start, like, remember that in the Gospel according to Spiritist, it says that at the first beginning we have instinct, then we have sensations, and then we have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So those spirits, I'm not saying there is no right or wrong, there's no black and white.
There's no rule of thumb. Every case is a different case.
It's a different case. So first, maybe those are in that instinct level.
Yeah.
And then they are going to feel the sensations, and then they're going to develop the feelings gradually. Everyone will reach there. And that helps us to look to each other with more compassion, with more love and understanding. of what the other one is passing through, and not judge the others, not put a label in those that are in that mistaken situation.
And then the jugo become light.
Yeah.
And then o jugo vai, e o jugo é leve.
Yes.
Because in that level of devolution, it's they, as you said, they are still like they don't actually feel that, but they are only like this is right, this is wrong. Do that, okay? They don't feel that way, but they do that. This is the beginning, and then they started actually feeling like what life after
Experience.
that experience.
Yeah.
They start actually
Experiencing
feeling, and then
the
becomes light. As us, we are like maybe in a different level, but it still will feel the heavy. We still think that it's heavy to watch for more evolved spirits. It's something so light to do it, so easy to do it. For us, it's too heavy, it's too difficult. Same thing for this experience.
Like
right?
to practice virtues is not easy.
Psychopaths have their journey. That's what you all are trying to say. So, like as spirits,
Everybody.
they have their journey. So
Everybody.
just
And we are here
yeah.
to not to judge the person
Exactly.
or to, but
No,
of course,
just as an example.
we need to
may not
learn.
be the right example.
yeah,
but
no,
yeah,
that's for
exactly.
sure. That's the reason that we have justice, that we have
Yeah.
prisons, that we put that person, isolate that person because that person is dangerous for the society. But we are also entitled to help, to educate. If we have more, as more we have, more responsibility we have as well to embrace, to practice the
Yeah.
virtues. John?
Oh, sorry, I was just.
Was-
But actually, just bringing back to the Jesus answer. Actually, he said at the end, like, you will learn with that people are not fragile. They are. Oh, sorry, they are fragile.
Yeah.
They're not reverse.
Yes.
So just psychopaths, people who make mistakes, liars. They are all submitted to their environments and whatever they're going through in their lives, and these incarnation they're going through. It's not. They're not reverse.
Yes.
Like, I think that narrows down all that discussion. They're more fragile than everything, and
Perfect.
they're going through that in this
Exactly.
incarnation.
I like what
And
you
Jesus
mentioned.
says he's true. Only later you will learn. You will come into possession of such essential fortitude. So in that moment he was learning, but later you will. So it gives hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that happens when it comes the third time. He realizes at the very second.
Yeah, and we are not going to
Oh
be
my
able to
gosh,
finish
yes.
today.
That
Well, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's so interesting. I'm so happy. I guess we're going to reflect upon this chapter for the rest of the 2025.
I couldn't agree more.
I
I like what you said that first there's like primitive and perception and then feelings.
Yes.
I had
And
an
this is not,
interesting.
was not told by me. It's in the Gospel according to Jesus.
Just the messengers.
Yeah, but I had an interesting conversation with a person that had a sociopathy, and really asking because I wanted to understand, and I was asking like, you know, what you're doing is wrong. You know you're hurting. You're hurting, like causing a lot of pain. And the interesting, and it's scary, but I wanted to understand. It was like, I know, but I don't feel anything. I don't care. It's like, but you know it's wrong. Like you have the conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I don't care. I don't feel. Or questions like when they hurt someone, like, oh, why are you crying? And the person looking from outside, like,
You just did it.
you just did it? Oh, just because I did it, you're crying or you're in pain? Like they don't understand the feeling. So as you mentioned, like the feeling will come.
Will come. Hope. Only later. Danilo would like to say something?
Well, just going to wrap up around the whole idea of each one of us having our own time, and we know that we reach. And I'm going back also to the somebody said something about being in a rush, and sometimes I see that rush feeling. It's more like not in ourselves. It's more like we always put towards all of
Others.
this, right? But also, with everything that I don't like, that I see out there, doesn't really like affect me that much. When you have a better understanding with the whole situation and the process, what the planet is going through right now, and actually I have lots of hope. I would always have like a positive vision to things that usually people not happy about or get anxious about, because I know that actually during that process, somebody's learning. There's a lesson. There's
Yes.
an exam.
Always.
Right.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
There's I think she's an English writer that has a quote that I absolutely love, that she says, "In youth you learn, in age you understand." So learning is acquiring knowledge. Understanding is putting it to like choosing to put it to practice or not. But first you need to acquire the knowledge. We all, as spirits, and we can think of youth and age in terms of the age of the spirit, for example. And as we make choices, we learn more and more and more. But we, as spirits, we will always evolve in intelligence first, and then in morality, right? So let's say intelligence is horizontal, morality is vertical. So we first need to go a long way in a horizontal to then start going up. Because, again, conscientious choices first need the understand behind them. The understanding of, is it right, is it wrong?
Yeah.
And then after, like without knowledge, you could just call it luck. I made a good choice by luck because I had no idea what I was doing. So that's not really a merit. Our merit comes from making good choices when we understand.
To the point before we need to finish because we are late already, just saying that our apprentices, like our the pathway how we learn goes to 3 levels. First one is knowing. We acquire the knowledge with our brain, about information. Like we are doing here. We are talking about, we are getting information. And then we reflect. So we start getting conversation. We are thinking about that more profoundly. So we get to the feel. We feel in our hearts. So the level of instinct and sensation, and then we start practicing. So 3 levels of knowledge. First, cognitive, then feeling, and then practice.
And I was thinking about that too, that Renata was talking, like how many spirits come with lots of knowledge and with a mission and a leadership position. And knowledge is there, like the morality is not yet acquired. So that's why we see the umbral like with lots of extremely intelligent spirits, and we see here on earth right now.
Yeah.
And by right now, like talking on 21st century, but if you go and you read like Emmanuel's books, it was from 1938, 1940, we were talking about Second World War, we were talking about everything that now we talk as history, and it seems so up to date. Like everything that was happening, all the wars, all the conflicts, all that was carried based on God's names and Jesus' name, and it's still going on now. So I think like bring the idea of being patient, like the chronological years here that we experience means nothing when we talk about the immortal spirit. Like it was when you see that it's been 80 some years, and it's today, it's still like we need to give ourselves time, and we need to give mankind time to bring like intelligence or cognitive awareness to changing immorality and in feelings.
And to that point, sorry, I know you're over, so I'll keep this very short. I think building on what you're saying, Drew, is just this idea of the words that we use and the impact it ultimately has on us rather than everyone else. Like these ideas of psychopathy, sociopathy, deviancy. Who came up with these labels? Was it God? Did God show up and say, heck, it didn't take long if you read the Bible for someone to kill someone else. Heck, pretty quick, like Cain is like going after Abel, and did God come down and start, okay, you are now the murderer, here's the list of, and everybody that murders from here on out gets put under this umbrella. Who came up with these labels? It was us. And actually, if you look at it, when somebody does any of these acts, how does God, well, apparently there's only 2 of them and now there's 1, and so he just supports the one that's left. He just keeps helping Cain, you know? He doesn't turn on anyone. And so this goes back to this idea of they are just children of the Lord, and they are fragile rather than perverse. And all the perversion it's something, and that perception of perversion, is it really real, or is it something that we, the rest of us, apply to certain individuals for our own reasons? And that's all well and good. It's just a reflection on how much these words and labels ultimately are impacting us and how we behave, rather than everybody else.
Perfect wrap up.
I hope I get this right.
I'm going to add one more
You were too quiet. You were too quiet.
I just to tag along with what you said, like just for us to think how much mental health has been, like the knowledge with mental health has improved. Centuries ago, or not even 100 years ago, people would put in asylums or something, places, because they had like a schizophrenic episode or something. Now it's treatable in a different way, and it's not putting people away that's going to help them and society to evolve. So all the titles, all the diagnoses, they are important for a reason, but not, as you said, not for us to judge, but to know that there are explanations, but we are all in this together for a reason as well. Like we are part of that, helping each other too, right, and not judge. It's not easy, but it's what it is. So things are not, like now in 100 years, if we're having this discussion, we're probably going to have a bunch of other diagnoses, but also a lot of things would have been improved in that sense as well.
And historically speaking, 100 years is nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And like if you work in the mental health field, even hard to keep up,
Yeah.
because like DSM 1, 2, 3, 4, and like what is that? It's manifestations of the spirit. Like in real life, that you go and you label, and not the other way around. So it's just the name.
Yes.
All right, thank you guys. We can finish after, I guess, if you want to talk more, right?
Yeah, I know it's good, but Louise is going to kill me.
No, he
I'm
won't.
kidding. It's just because
He
the
has
kids,
more
they get
Yeah,
so
that's right.
excited there.
He's fragile.
Yeah, that's right. Can you please turn off the lights, John, please? We're going to do our final prayer. So once again, let's close our eyes, elevate our thoughts, and thank you, God. Thank you, all benevolent spirits among us, our mentors, the FSS mentors. Thank you specifically to Peter that provided us with all those reflections, with his own example, from the circumstantial moment that he had lived, and has provided us so much to think about, so much to look to ourselves and transform ourselves, transform our hearts, the same way that he transformed himself at that very moment. Let's keep thinking about what we have learned here today. Let's bring this to our hearts and see with love, compassion, but honesty, how our hearts, what's the virtues that we have in our hearts right now, what we should improve in ourselves, how to become a better person with virtues, values, and wisdom. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for another meeting, another day with reflections. be with us now and ever.